Imagine this with me, just for a moment. I spent nearly $1 million on dates. Now before you snicker, before you roll your eyes, listen closely. This isn't about extravagance, this is about an obsession. It's about chasing affection with debit cards, swiping faster than meaning shows up. What if I told you that behind those dollar bills lies something far more expensive than money, something much more common than you think? Stay with me, this isn't a money story. It's a mirror. You know what's funny about human beings? We will judge someone for wasting money, right before we waste our own. When I tell you I spent almost $1 million on dates, you think I've lost my mind. And you're right, that's the point. But here's the twist, you've lost yours too. You just don't have the receipts yet. We live in a world where absurdity is normal. We queue for 3 hours to take a selfie at a restaurant with overpriced food we don't even enjoy. We sign contracts for houses we can't afford just so the neighbors will believe we've made it. We buy sneakers not to walk in, but to be photographed in. So before you laugh at my $1 million dating history, maybe, just maybe, look at your own tab. You see, absurdity is seductive. It wears the perfume of validation. It whispers, if you just have this, if you just go there, if you just post that, they'll finally see you. And when you're chasing the approval of people who don't even notice you exist, you will spend, and spend, and spend. Money, time, energy, dignity. You will swipe your card and yourself. Worth at the same time. I didn't wake up one day and say, let me burn $1 million. No, it started small, dinner here, a weekend away there. The next thing you know, you're in a 5-star suite staring at a bill so high could trigger a nosebleed. And you're thinking, well, at least she smiled. But here's where the absurd gets dangerous. You start believing it's normal. You convince yourself that connection has a price tag, that love comes in receipts, that the more you spend, the more they'll stay. And when the human heart becomes a ledger, you've already lost. We are all guilty of it. Maybe you've never blown $1 million on dates, but you've blown something on trying to buy belonging. Maybe it's a degree you didn't want, a wedding you couldn't afford, a lifestyle you hate, and you didn't do it because it made you happy. You did it because you thought it would make you enough. That's the real absurdity. Not that we spend too much, but that we spend on the wrong things. We overinvest in the temporary, underinvest in the eternal. We will finance a car, but won't finance our own growth. We will put designer labels on our bodies, but not discipline in our lives. We will spend millions looking like we have it together, while falling apart quietly in the dark. And so, I stand here not as a man who wasted $1 million on dates, but as a mirror. Because the absurdity in my story is the absurdity in yours, just in different currency. Mine was money. Yours might be time or peace, or the dreams you abandoned because someone told you they were too much. If you strip away the glamour, absurdity is just fear wearing a tuxedo. Fear of being unseen, fear of being unloved, fear of being ordinary, and fear is expensive, because it never pays you back. Now, here's the part they don't tell you. The absurd will always come calling. The ads will always be polished. The pressure will always be there. But you get to decide whether you open the door. You get to decide whether to keep buying into a life that looks rich but feels bankrupt. I learned something in those $1 million nights. You can buy the champagne, but not the conversation. You can buy the table, but not the connection. You can buy the experience, but not the meaning. And when the lights go out, you will still be left with yourself. And if you haven't invested in that, nothing else you've bought matters. So confront the absurd. Don't just laugh at it. Stare it down. Call it by its name. Ask yourself, what am I paying for right now that's costing me more than money? And if you don't like the answer, put the card away. Because one day the bill comes due. And trust me, you don't want to be the one explaining to yourself why you spent everything you were chasing something you never really wanted. The numbers don't matter. Whether it's $100 or $1 million, the currency is irrelevant. What matters is the principle, and the principle is this. Money is just a magnifying glass. It doesn't change who you are, it only makes you more of it. When I spent nearly $1 million on dates, I wasn't paying for food or wine or plane tickets. I was paying for something I didn't have the courage to admit I wanted, to feel valued, to feel chosen, and the irony, I thought I could outsource that feeling. I thought I could purchase it, package it, and serve it on a silver platter. But here's the universal truth. Everything we do, everything we buy, everything we chase is never really about the thing itself. It's about the story we tell ourselves when we have it. We don't want the car. We want the identity that comes with driving it. We don't want the dinner. We want the status that comes from being seen at the right table. We don't want the relationship. We want the validation that we are worthy of being loved. And the danger, the story doesn't last. You tell it once, it feels good. You tell it twice, it starts to fade. You tell it the third time, you're already looking for a bigger, louder, more expensive story to tell. That's how you end up in a cycle where enough is never enough. The insight is not about money, it's about meaning. When you trade meaning for appearance, you will always be broke, no matter how much is in your account. Because appearance fades, status shifts, trends change, but meaning compounds. We live in a marketplace where everything is for sale: time, attention, identity. And the problem is, when you treat the priceless as if it's purchasable, you dilute its value until it's worthless. The moment you believe love can be bought, you stop cultivating the kind that lasts. The moment you believe self-worth can be dressed up, you stop doing the work to earn it from within. What I learned is this: if you strip away the luxury, the lighting, the curated social media moments, you are left with the truth of the connection. And that truth is either strong enough to stand on its own, or it isn't. You might not be spending millions on dates, but I guarantee you are paying a price for your own illusions. Maybe it's the endless grind at a job you hate, so you can afford things you don't need, to impress people you don't even like. Maybe it's sacrificing your values for a seat at a table that isn't even serving food you enjoy. Maybe it's giving your time, your loyalty, your energy to someone who has no intention of giving any of it back. The currency changes, but the transaction is the same. We sell out what's priceless for something that can be bought, and in the process, we lose both. The universal insight is simple. Everything in life has a cost, but not everything is worth the price. And the most expensive purchases are rarely made with money. They are made with our integrity, our time, our peace of mind. You can replace money. You can never replace those. So here's the challenge. Before you spend, ask why. Not why not. That's the excuse of someone already committed to the purchase. I mean why. Why do you want this? What do you believe it will give you? And if the answer is something that can only come from within, don't fool yourself into thinking you'll find it out there. You can't buy wholeness. You can't rent peace. You can't lease self-respect. You can try, but the payments never end and the debt gets heavier. The day I understood this, I realized the million wasn't wasted, because it taught me the most valuable lesson I'll ever learn. That the richest people are not the ones who can afford the most, but the ones who need the least. So take the magnifying glass away from your bank account and put it on your life. Look at the deals you're making, the silent contracts you've signed with yourself and others, and ask, am I richer in the things that matter, or am I bankrupt where it counts? Because here's the truth no one wants to hear. The most valuable investments you'll ever make have nothing to do with money and everything to do with meaning. And the moment you understand that, you stop trying to buy what can only be built. I want to talk to you about contrast, because life is never one color. It's never just black or white. It's the tension between them that gives the picture depth. When I say I spent almost $1 million on dates, you hear extravagance. But if I tell you I've also eaten instant noodles at midnight because I couldn't afford anything else, you start to see the edges of the story. You understand that wealth and emptiness can live in the same house. That's the thing about contrast. It makes the truth louder. We think success is this perfect upward curve. It's not. It's a jagged line between winning and losing, loving and hurting, giving and being taken from. The same man who once booked an entire rooftop for a private dinner has also sat alone in a cold apartment wondering if anyone would notice if he disappeared. The same person who can tip a waiter more than most people's rent has also been the waiter, counting coins to get home. You see, contrast humbles you. It forces you to see that both sides are possible, and often they exist at the same time. That's why people who only live on one extreme rarely understand life. They've never had to taste both the sweetness of abundance and the bitterness of loss in the same mouthful. When you live in contrast, you understand something most people don't. You can feel empty in a full room. You can feel poor in a rich life. You can feel unloved even when the world is applauding you. That's because the external and the internal are rarely in sync. And when they are not, no amount of spending bridges the gap. I've learned that the moments of greatest meaning in my life had nothing to do with the expensive parts. The dinner that mattered wasn't in a Michelin-star restaurant. It was at a cheap corner cafe, where the conversation didn't need a backdrop. The most valuable trip I ever took wasn't first class. It was sitting in the back of a bus, talking to someone who saw me, not my resume. That's the power of contrast. It teaches you to tell the difference between what is shiny and what is solid. It trains your eye to spot the real gold from the gold-plated. Because here's the truth. Most of what we chase is just glitter. And glitter looks good until it sticks to your hands and you can't wash it off. Contrast also exposes lies, especially the ones you tell yourself. When you've had more than enough, you see the hollowness of more. When you've had nothing, you understand the hunger that enough can never satisfy. And so the danger is not in having too much or too little. It's in forgetting what both feel like. When I look back, the $1 million wasn't the issue. The issue was that I was using it to mute the silence. Money was just a louder distraction. Without it, I had to listen to myself, and what I heard wasn't comfortable. Here's where contrast becomes the teacher. It gives you perspective. If all you've known is comfort, discomfort feels like death. If all you've known is struggle, success feels like an illusion. But when you've had both, you stop fearing either. You stop defining yourself by the season you're in, because you've been through enough seasons to know they all change. I want you to think about your own life. Where's the contrast? Are you pretending you've only ever been on one side? Are you hiding the failures because they don't fit the story you want to tell? Are you ashamed of the abundance because you're afraid people will resent it? That's the problem with trying to live in one shade. You lose the full picture. You can be generous because you've been desperate. You can be humble because you've been high. You can be grounded because you've been untouchable. The richest lives are not the ones that avoid contrast. They're the ones that embrace it, and that's the real lesson. The night sky is only beautiful because the darkness makes the stars visible. The music is only powerful because the pauses make the notes matter. Your life will only have depth when you allow the highs and the lows to exist without trying to erase either one. I spent $1 million on dates. I've also spent nothing and had a better time. That's the truth. And that's the beauty. Let me ask you a dangerous question. What's your number? Not your salary, not your bank balance. The price you're willing to pay before you finally say enough. Because every one of you has one. You just don't want to admit it. See, it's easy to point at me and say, $1 million on dates. That's insane. But I can point right back at you. How much have you spent chasing validation? How much have you invested in looking successful instead of being successful? How many hours have you poured into someone else's dream while ignoring your own? You don't measure your life in dollars. You measure it in trades. And every day you're making trades. Time for approval. Integrity for access. Energy for acceptance. And if you don't know your number, you'll trade forever without realizing you've sold the only thing worth keeping, yourself. The problem is not that people don't know what they want. It's that they refuse to admit what they're willing to give up to get it. You say you want freedom, but you'll take the job that cages you because it comes with a shiny title. You say you want love, but you'll settle for attention because it's easier to get. You say you want purpose, but you'll chase comfort because purpose demands too much. You think I'm here to inspire you. I'm not. I'm here to offend you into waking up. So here's the offense. Your life is exactly what you've tolerated. If you've tolerated being underpaid, you're underpaid. If you've tolerated being disrespected, you're disrespected. If you've tolerated being unseen, you're invisible. Stop blaming the system, the economy, your upbringing. Those things shape the game, yes, but you're the one still playing by rules you didn't write. The harsh truth, the world doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you demand, and most people are too polite to demand anything that matters. They'd rather complain than confront. They'd rather envy than execute. They'd rather talk about change than pay the cost of it, and so they stay stuck. But here's the shift. When you decide that your price is non-negotiable, everything changes. You stop discounting yourself to fit into spaces that can't afford you. You stop giving your time to people who don't value it. You stop making yourself small to be accepted by those who can't handle your full height. Don't misunderstand me. This isn't arrogance. This is ownership. This is looking at your life and saying, if I have to overpay for this, it's not for me. If I have to betray myself to keep it, I don't want it. I had to learn this the hard way. $1 million later, I realized I was the one putting my worth on sale. Nobody forced me to swipe my card. Nobody held a gun to my head. I volunteered to overpay for things that didn't deliver because I didn't know my own value. And that's the trap. If you don't know your value, you'll accept whatever the world offers. So here's your challenge. Go home today and write down every trade you've made in the past year. Where did your money go? Where did your time go? Who got your attention? Who got your energy? And then ask the only question that matters. Was it worth the price? If the answer is no, change the terms. Today, not next year, not when it's convenient, not when the timing is right. The timing will never be right. You make it right by deciding. Stop waiting for permission to value yourself. Stop hoping someone will see your worth. Stop trying to earn respect from people who are bankrupt in character. Your mindset is the vault where your future is stored, and the combination isn't some secret only the lucky have. It's simple. You lock out the cheap stuff, so there's room for the priceless. You have one life, one chance, and if you keep selling it piece by piece, don't be shocked when you run out before you've even lived it. So I'll ask you again, what's your number, and more importantly, when are you going to stop selling? So here we are. We've gone through the absurdity, we've dug into the truth, we've torn apart the illusions. Now there's only one thing left to do. Decide. Decisions are where lives change, not in conversations, not in motivational videos, not in the quiet promises you whisper to yourself at midnight. No change happens in the decision. That moment when you finally say, this stops today, because here's what I know, most people don't live, they just survive on autopilot. They wake up, clock in, clock out, scroll, sleep, and call it a life. They're not living. They're existing inside someone else's blueprint, and they don't even realize the cost until the bill shows up. I spent almost $1 million before I asked the only question that matters. What am I actually building here? And that question will strip away your comfort faster than anything else. You think you have time. You think you can keep delaying. But every day you delay, you make a silent agreement with mediocrity. Every day you delay, you say, this is good enough. And here's the truth. Good enough is the enemy. Good enough is the thief. Good enough will rob you of the greatness you were born to deliver. I'm not telling you to burn everything down. I'm telling you to evaluate every single thing in your life like your survival depends on it. Because it does. Look at your relationships. Are they feeding you or bleeding you? Look at your habits. Are they building you or breaking you? Look at your dreams. Are they alive or are they buried under excuses? And then act, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Readiness is a myth. If you're waiting for the perfect moment, it will never come. You don't get ready. You get moving. The most dangerous word in the human language is someday. Someday, I'll start that business. Someday, I'll get in shape. Someday, I'll take the risk. Someday, I'll stop tolerating this. Someday is the graveyard where dreams go to rot. Do you know why most people never get what they want? Because they've mastered the art of almost. They almost take the leap. They almost speak the truth. They almost break the cycle, but almost never built an empire, almost never left a legacy, almost never changed a life. If you want something different, you have to be different, not once, not for a week. Consistently, every day, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. That's the price, and yes, there will be loss. You will lose people who were never really with you. You will lose the comfort of being liked by everyone. You will lose the illusion that you can have it all without giving up anything, but what you gain is worth infinitely more. You gain clarity, you gain freedom. You gain the unshakable knowledge that you are living on your terms, not as a passenger in your own story, but as the author. This is not about money. This is not about dates. This is not about the million I spent. This is about the millions of moments you are wasting if you don't decide to take your life seriously. So here's my call to you. Go home. Sit in silence. Ask yourself, what am I no longer willing to pay for? What is costing me my peace, my energy, my joy? And when you get that answer, act on it. Not next month, not when you feel ready. Act on it now. Stop chasing what looks good. Start building what lasts. Stop trading your worth for crumbs. Start demanding the table. Stop living like you have forever. You don't. The truth is simple. You are one decision away from a completely different life, but you have to make it. Nobody can make it for you. Nobody will rescue you, and nobody is coming. So what's it going to be? The life you've been tolerating? Or the life you've been too afraid to claim? You already know the cost of staying where you are. The only question left is whether you're willing to keep paying it. Make the call, make the move, and don't look back. Look around you. The most expensive date you'll ever have is with yourself, right now. Not with a partner, not with a brand, not with a transaction, but with you. Will you show up? Will you strip away the distractions, the expense, the noise, and sit with your own worth? Because that, my friends, is the only thing worthy of $1 million investment. Pause, spend that on yourself, and tell me what happens next.